My job is to give you kind of a brief summary of the contents of dockets, the kinds of things we do as staff in reviewing applications, the kind of conditions that are in dockets, to give you a better sense of some of the specifics that Drew will be talking about when he starts going through his addressing of a number of applications that are pending before the commission. So start off very briefly. Drew talked a little bit about this, about what we do, what we don't do. As the commission, we review water withdrawals. We review and regulate consumptive use and diversions into and out of the basin. So this is kind of a one-shot of what we actually do with respect to surface water and groundwater withdrawals. If you withdraw more than 100,000 gallons per day, you've got to come into the commission for approval. If you consumptively use more than 20,000 gallons per day, you've got to come to the commission for approval. If you are diverting water out of the basin at greater than 20,000 gallons per day, you need to come to the commission. If you're diverting water into the basin, our regulation begins at gallon 1. So that's kind of a brief summary of what we do. With respect to the natural gas industry, these thresholds change. Because we didn't know when this play began what the water use profile was like for this industry, the commission decided that we would regulate withdrawals, we would regulate consumptive use from gallon 1. So in reality, if you take a 5-gallon bucket down to a stream and you fill that bucket and withdraw it from that stream, and that water is used for the drilling of a gas well, that falls under our regulation. So it begins at gallon 1. General contents of the docket. Throughout much of the nation, if you are a regulator and you grant approval of something, it's typically in the form of a permit. In our jargon, our equivalent of a permit is a docket. These are the kinds of things that are contained in our dockets. I'll go over them very briefly. Project information, approval type, is it groundwater, is it surface water, what's this water going to be used for? Source information, in what basin, what sub-basin is this withdrawal being requested? Approval conditions. In every docket, we specify the maximum amount of water that can be withdrawn. We also specify the instantaneous rate at which that water can be withdrawn. These are all things that are contained in all of our dockets. Flow protection, and I'll get into pass-by and what flow protection is in a moment. Standard conditions, metering plans, recording requirements, all of those are contained in these dockets. Every docket is unique. Every docket is specific to a withdrawal or a diversion or a consumptive use. It's not one size fits all. Special conditions, expiration dates, again, if there are pass-by conditions, if there are other issues that are unique to that withdrawal, they will be contained in the docket as well. Consumptive use, kind of giving you the 5-cent definition of consumptive use. It's water that's used but not returned to the basin undiminished in quantity. That's the general term or definition for consumptive use. Withdrawals, whether they be groundwater or surface water, taking or removal of water from any source within the basin for use within the basin. If it's withdrawn within our basin but used out of the basin, that becomes a diversion. Transfer of water into or out of the basin. So those are the general definitions, and Drew had already started talking about some of the dockets and whether they pertain to withdrawals, whether they pertain to diversions, those kinds of things, and he'll resume that in a moment. Consumptive use, we essentially have 2 forms of consumptive use approval: the standard procedure, and these are the things that are contained in the typical consumptive use review: application information, notification requirements, water source identification, metering plans, consumptive use compensation method. Those are the things that are typically contained in our docketed consumptive uses. Our gas-related approval by rule, there is this misconception that approval by rule is a shortcut and doesn't really require a whole lot of information. I will ask you to take a quick look at this list. It's very similar to this list. The information that we require is comprehensive. This includes the ABR approvals. So it's not a short list or an end run around the requirements. Again, we get into metering plans, site maps, methods of consumptive use mitigation notification requirements. We also require that the applicant prove to us that they've got a permit from DEP to drill the wells on the paths that are involved in these APR approvals. Groundwater withdrawals. This is a list of the things that applicants have to submit to us before they get action taken by our commissioners. It's quite lengthy. I won't read everything, but our scientists and our engineers base their decisions on a whole bunch of data, site-specific data. Every single project application has to come to us with site-specific information. Every one of these projects that has an application submitted to us, one of our engineers or one of our scientists or a team of engineers and scientists go out and visit every single site. This is not a stamp of approval. Every site is visited. And these are the kinds of things that we require the applicant to submit to us before staff would make a recommendation to our commissioners. Staff don't have the authority to approve or deny anything. What we do is look at the body of information that's submitted by the applicant, and we make a recommendation to our commissioners. They take the action. But this is the kind of information that has to be submitted to staff for us to have a technical understanding of what the project involves and enables us to make a recommendation to the commissioners. If this information is not submitted to us, then the application is deemed administratively incomplete and it's sent back to the applicant. Only when the application is administratively complete do we go into the technical reviews. Surface water applications. Again, a long list of things that we require the applicant to submit. Again, a lot of information about notification. We also, with respect to surface water and groundwater, I'll back up for a moment with respect, when we talk about groundwater, I'll draw your attention to the notification. Landowners located within a 1/2 mile radius of a proposed groundwater withdrawal will be notified by the applicant. The applicant has to give us proof that they notified all the landowners located within a 1/2 mile radius of that project. Jumping back to surface water, if you are a riparian landowner, you are notified if you're located within 1/2 mile up river or 1/2 mile down river from the proposed withdrawal. So there are specific notification requirements for all of these applications. With respect to surface water, I know there have been a number of the public that have made mention of cumulative impact analyses. We do cumulative impact analyses on every single docket that is submitted to us, whether it's for surface water or groundwater. We do the cumulative impact analysis both looking upstream and downstream, so it is done as a matter of course. Safe yield calculation, we want to make sure that the resource is not overprescribed. I'll get into a moment about how we do that. We also have a team of biologists that go out and look at these sites because there are times when site conditions actually support a higher level of classification than that stream is given by DEP or DEC or MDE. If our biologists go out and they find the macroinvertebrates, the biotic life that supports a higher level of protection, we will give it a higher level of protection when we draft the docket. So it's based upon our folks going out, taking a look at these sites individually, and again, our team go out to every one of these sites. When Drew starts talking about some of these specific projects, there are a few technical terms, and I want to go over those very briefly, so when they come up, you'll understand what they are. The three that I want to draw your attention to are Q710, ADF, which is average daily flow, and pass-by flow, and I'll get into the definition of those in a moment. Q710, it's really a drought flow. It's really a very low flow condition that occurs in these streams, and actually this is a natural phenomenon. This is not industry related. Droughts occur naturally. Q710 is the lowest average flow experienced during a consecutive 7-day period that's estimated to recur on average once every 10 years. So it is a drought. The Q710 is used as essentially a litmus test as to whether a given withdrawal is going to trigger a pass-by or not. If you're proposing to withdraw more than 10% of Q710 that has been calculated for the point of withdrawal, this is not a one-size-fits-all. Our team do all of these